Police Systems and Practices, we're in week 13, right? Chapter 13. Okay, so we've got some really interesting questions. At least I hope they're interesting for you. For this week's discussion board, I hope that you find the accompanying videos to help you out with how you're going to formulate your answer. And hope you enjoy this presentation.
Critical thinking is a term that gets thrown around a lot. You've probably heard it used often throughout the years, whether it was in school, at work, or in everyday conversation. But when you stop to think about it, just what exactly is critical thinking? And how do you do it? Simply put, it's the act of deliberately analyzing information so that you can make better judgments and decisions. It involves using things like logic, reasoning, and creativity to draw conclusions and generally understand things better. This may sound like a pretty broad definition, and that's because critical thinking is a broad skill that can be applied to so many different situations. You can use it to prepare for a job interview, manage your time better, make decisions about purchasing things, and so much more. Now, as humans, we are constantly thinking. It's something we can't turn off. But not all of it is critical thinking. No one thinks critically 100% of the time. That would be pretty exhausting. Instead, it's an intentional process, something that we consciously use when we're presented with difficult problems or important decisions. In order to become a better critical thinker, it's important to ask questions when you're presented with a problem or a decision before jumping to any conclusions. You can start with simple ones like, what do I currently know? And how do I know this? These can help to give you a better idea of what you're working with and, in some cases, simplify more complex issues. Let's take a look at how we can use critical thinking to evaluate online information. Say a friend of yours posts a news article on social media and you're drawn to its headline. If you were to use your everyday automatic thinking, you might accept it as fact and move on. But if you were thinking critically, you would first analyze the available information and ask some questions. What's the source of this article? Is the headline potentially misleading? What are my friend's general beliefs, and do they inform why they might have shared this? After analyzing all of this information, you can draw a conclusion about whether you think the article is trustworthy. Critical thinking has a wide range of applications in the real world. It can help you to make better decisions, become more hireable, and generally help you to better understand the world around you.
New figures released today illustrate the dangers faced by police in this country. This year, 126 officers died in the line of duty, up 24% from last year. 14 deaths were in California, the most of any state. And with that in mind, and amid continued protests over police tactics, some officers are feeling threatened as never before. John Blackstone reports from San Jose, California.
At demonstrations in cities across the country, squads of riot-equipped police have been facing emotional, angry crowds, often feeling empowered by using cell phone video cameras.
There are some who would like to capture on video police doing something that will look bad.
James Gonzalez, a detective with the San Jose Police Department, has seen the demonstrations from the other side.
We are always outnumbered. As a young police officer, my own police car was hit with bricks during protests. The first thing that goes through any police officer's mind is, how do we get everyone home safe?
In 15 years as a policeman, he's become experienced in pulling on full riot gear. You look pretty tough. You look pretty impervious. It doesn't feel the same behind that mask?
What may look very intimidating to the protesters, you feel extremely vulnerable. There's a big difference in perception of what we see from one side of the riot glass and what protesters see from the other side.
When officers try to separate troublemakers from peaceful protesters, making an arrest can incite more trouble.
That's a very difficult thing to do, and that crowd often will turn on the police who are doing that very difficult job.
He's not fighting back! It happened recently in Gonzalez's own department when San Jose officers tried to remove a disorderly man from a football game. He's not fighting back! Fans shouted for the police to stop.
Video is only one angle, one perspective. It doesn't tell the whole story.
Soon, police officers in San Jose will be wearing their own body cameras. More video may not reduce the stress of facing a crowd of protesters, but it will add a new view. John Blackston, CBS News, San Jose.
Police officers are human. They don't simply forget the cases they investigate. In fact, in 2018 alone, 122 Boston police officers encountered a traumatic event on the job. Newly appointed Commissioner William Gross is committed to face this problem head-on. As Police Commissioner of Boston, why has officer wellness become such a priority for you? It clearly is.
The leading cause of police officers dying in the United States is by their own hands. That's suicide. And I'm going to tell you personally, in my career, which is going on its 36 years, there's just been several tragedies. And there's always these questions like, what could we have done? There's no sign sometimes. What can we do? What can we do to help prevent suicide in law enforcement? And I just think it's time to talk about this openly, that police officers are not robotic. We have feelings, we have empathy, we have sympathy, we have issues that need to be addressed, a lot of them by seeking counseling.
Officer wellness covers a wide range of topics.
Yes,
what are some of the issues and some of the stresses that police officers face?
Well, quite frankly, you know, the job itself, you can see the joys of life, but often you see the tragedies as well. So we see homicides, we see people injured, shootings, stabbings, or just some hardships. What about crimes against children and the elderly? All that contributes to the stress that we have on this job. It definitely affects us mentally, or you wouldn't be human.
The Boston Police Foundation funds the Boston Police Peer Support Unit, which does amazing work with your officers. Talk about the importance of that work.
In these modern times, we often hear about counseling, trauma counselors. We should have the same thing for our police officers. If you're to the point where you're trying to internalize everything, and you're to the point where that's affecting your behavior at home and on the job, there is the peer support that can help you address those problems and issues that you face. And it's professional. Your name's not given out. They're not a reporting mechanism to the command staff and upper management. We're here to actually help the officers, and guess what? The families too. we're nothing without our families. And trust me, this job can be devastating to families. So if we're going to heal officers, we need to heal the families, the children, and all of our loved ones that are going through it with us.
Since 1993, the Boston Police Foundation has made it its mission to prioritize officer health and wellness. In 2018, they funded 830 hours of clinical support. In addition, they provided $325,000 of gym equipment to promote physical wellness. Carl Jenkins, chairman of the Boston Police Foundation, leads the organization's efforts. Why is officer health and wellness so important to the Boston Police Foundation?
These officers get up in the morning and they don't know what their day is like. The rest of us, we get up, we get a general idea what our day is going to be like. Think about getting up in the morning, getting dressed, and not having a clue what your day is going to be like. And it could be absolutely boring or it could be absolutely horrific. And then you come home to your spouse and your family who don't necessarily have the tools to deal with the trauma that an officer has gone through. So the city can't always afford it. They do some, but it needs to be more.
We were together back in September for Suicide Awareness Month on City Hall Plaza with our organization, AFSP, along with the Foundation and the Boston Police Department. If you could talk a little bit more about that partnership and why you feel it's so important.
First of all, it's incredibly valuable, and it's one of the reasons is because you don't have to go back too many years to realize how little suicide was discussed, and certainly in the Boston Police Department. And it's amazing to realize that the risk of dying by suicide is significantly higher than it is by dying in the line of duty as a cop. So I think it demands more attention, and it requires support from organizations like the Boston Police Foundation to be able to help provide that, and your foundation to bring it into the public discourse, public conversation.
In September, we brought awareness to everyone. As we stood there together in solidarity and talked about September being Suicide Prevention and Suicide Awareness Month, and that police officers are human and it's okay to say you need help, and the Boston Police Foundation led the way. So it showed that, listen, we're here for you. There's people that actually care about you. We're putting our money where our mouth is and funding support for you for officer wellness. It's welcomed, and we really appreciate it.